On today's show, we're going to be reacting to a video that Luc Forsyth, I think I'm saying his name right, on his YouTube channel, did a video about. He did a video about Rhett Reese, which you'll see in the video. We'll watch it together. Rhett Reese is a writer for Deadpool. He's a Hollywood screenwriter. He's done a bunch of stuff. He said when he saw the latest AI generated content, he said it's over. And then Luke responds to this. I'll be honest with you. I don't really like talking about AI in filmmaking. It is a conversation that I think there's a lot of landmines to it. People's opinions will change over time. So like having a take right now is not even like super valuable. But I do think that it's worthy of having a little bit of a conversation because Luke, as he'll explain in the video, I'm gonna have to skip through some of it just because it's really long. But he's a DP predominantly for documentary filmmaking. I, on the other hand, am an independent filmmaker, primarily on the narrative side, meaning fiction. Nothing that I write is real life, like a documentary. Our last film was mimicking a documentary, not a mockumentary. It was just kind of mimicking a documentary a little bit. But I really liked what Luke had to say. I disagree with him on a couple things. And I think here's the thing. Whenever we approach this conversation, we're all going to have our own takes on this. I've seen takes from we can't have AI at all, it should be gone, to we should be fully living into AI and we should just completely upset everything in Hollywood that exists and take it over. I don't think that either of those takes on the extreme sides of things are all that valuable because there's too much conversation to have in the middle. So I think it's better to listen really well and have a better conversation about what AI and filmmaking should be, what it's probably going to be, where it's going to be bad, where it's going to be good, and everything in between. So we're going to jump into it. Let's go ahead and watch this video, and I'll stop it along the way, pause it along the way. And if you have comments or questions, just leave those in the comments below, and I'll try and address them as much as I can. So let's take a look. Let's watch this together.
In case you missed it, this short clip generated by a new AI called Seed Dance has gone off like a bomb throughout the film industry.
2 lines of text, that's all it took to generate.
No actors, no cameras, an AI nightmare come true.
Condemning the
So I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is the video that really made headway because
like
it's one thing to see some of the AI slop that we've seen. Obviously, not that long ago, it was Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it was awful, right? It was like just the AI was just terrible at reproducing something. But then this came out, and this looks like
generated by a new AI called
full-on scene. I mean, like if you told me that this was an actual scene that had been filmed, I would have been doubtful of that because I haven't heard of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise working on anything together. And, they do fight scenes still, but I wouldn't have imagined that it would have been this intense of a fight scene. And yet here we are. It looks really, really, really good. It's way better. Even if you don't think it looks good, right? If you're like, oh, hey, it looks kind of fake to me, it's still way better than the Will Smith eating spaghetti AI video that we saw like a year ago or 2 years ago. And that's basically what got this conversation started again we keep having these things where it's like AI is going to take over. Oh, wait a minute. It's not as good as we thought. Oh, wait, AI is going to take over. Oh, wait, it's not as good as we thought. So it's this kind of reiterating, like we have to keep thinking about this a little bit, but this is the thing that made the headways. And that's what he's talking about. And it goes all around everyone's commenting on this thing.
After watching this, the writer of Deadpool even got on social media and said it's likely over for us.
And this is where the main points of his video come in, because he's taking this Rhett Reese tweet and and where Rhett said, I hate to say it, but it's likely over for us. And then, this is the person who created it. So it was a 2-line prompt from Seed Dance. And they're saying that maybe Hollywood is cooked. And so the question, I think, is what is AI really going to be? What do we want AI to be? And how do we not let it just take us completely over? And that's a question that's like beyond us, right? But as we're responding to it as it relates to what we do with film. And I think there's some important points that Luke brings up here. So let's just keep going.
Honestly, he might be right. But He's right in a way that I don't think most people in this conversation are actually talking about. Because I've been in this business for more than 15 years and I've watched industries get disrupted by new tech before. Like, the only reason I'm working in film at all is because the internet tanked the photojournalism world and forced me to pivot. That didn't destroy photography because taking pictures is more popular.
So he's talking about the disruption that's happened over the course of many years. There's always disruption in the marketplace. The question I think that is still being asked is how much of a disruption will AI be? And that's where you hear the extremes. It's going to change everything to, I don't think it's going to ever be good enough. In fact, there was somebody I was watching the other day and they said who was that? They said they didn't think it would ever be good enough to win an Oscar. Now, I'll tell you some cases where I think that could be actually mistaken. In a really weird way, I think there's some ways that they might be mistaken about that particular comment.
Than ever. But what it did do was reshape the professional landscape in a way no one saw coming back then. So after watching this video and the internet's freak out about it, here's the question. Is this new wave of AI actually going to kill filmmaking, or is it just going to break the old model of Hollywood domination? And more importantly, what does that mean for all of us?
Or is is Hollywood going to take over the AI and utilize it in another way? So there's not just one thing that could happen. There's lots of things that could happen. And that is really where it gets chaotic. It gets scary. It makes us wonder what our role will be in filmmaking. All of these things are true.
Before we get too deep into this, let me back up for a second.
These are some startling images that we're looking at here. And
Because in case you haven't seen it, a couple of days ago, an Irish filmmaker named Rory Robinson typed two.
So he just goes over this again. So we're just going to skip through this.
If you have one of these, your home's ready for an upgrade.
And one of the things that I think we have to think about too is, like, as we talk about what AI could be, I think it's important that we don't just, sometimes there's people that are kind of like, I just want to ignore it. And that is totally fine. If you need to have if your mental health is such that you're like, I can't deal with this subject right now, it is totally fine for you to ignore it. I think it's difficult to ignore, though. So if you are like me and you really don't feel like you can ignore it, and it does feel like it's going to do things in film that could be upsetting to you. I'm a writer and a director and a producer. So there's multiple areas where AI could be bad. Now, I'm all independent. I have not worked with any studios ever. So I'm looking at it a little bit differently. I could be looking at it and say, well, Hollywood has never come knocking at my door, so I'm just going to utilize AI and I'm going to be part of the disruption of Hollywood. I'm not looking at it that way, and I'll explain why as we go through this. But he's going to keep explaining about, like, what we're seeing happen in the marketplace.
Really interested in came from Rhett Reese, the screenwriter behind the Deadpool films and Zombieland.
And Deadpool writer Rhett Reese saying it's likely over for Hollywood.
And even though I don't know Rhett, I don't think he's exaggerating his opinion here. Because when someone pushed back and said the video still looks like garbage, Reese doubled down. He said, in next to no time, one person is going to be able to sit at a computer.
So there is this argument that exists out there too, where people will say, oh, it looks like garbage, it's not very good. And that's where I bring up the Will Smith example again, right? Like, Will Smith eating spaghetti was not that long ago, and it was horrible. And now we're seeing Tom Cruise fight Brad Pitt, and I guarantee you that video would fool people. And they'd be like, what movie is this? What's coming out now? So the argument that it's bad, AI is bad, is almost like it will always be bad, I think is a pretty rough argument. And I'm going to still get to my opinion about why I think it could actually be very good in a very dangerous way later on in this video, but I just want to keep pointing that out because he's pointing it out here, and I just want to offer my take on that too.
And create a movie indistinguishable from what Hollywood now releases. True, if that person is no good, it will suck. But if that person possesses Christopher Nolan's talent and taste, and someone like that will rapidly come along, it will be tremendous. Now, I want to be fair to Reese here because he got a lot of heat for the post, and later he added some more clarification, saying, I'm not at all excited about AI encroaching into creative endeavors.
I think that's another area where it's rough to talk about AI in filmmaking because people will misinterpret what you're trying to say. Like, people interpreted what Rhett Reese was saying as like, oh, you're in favor of this happening. And now he's having to clarify that, like, no, I'm not. I think it's terrifying. I don't love it. Right. So that's another thing, is that I think the internet in general would prefer to speak as opposed to listen. Look, we're all the same way. Like we are all like that. We don't want to listen. We want to get our opinion out there. So I totally understand that. But I do think for some of these things, listening is probably a very important skill, because we need to be aware of what's going on, and we need to be aware of like when SAG-AFTRA or when the Writers Guild or when the Directors Guild is negotiating with studios, we should be able to understand what is happening from a place of a place of being able to have a take on it that makes sense, and it isn't like it's terrible or it's the best thing that I've ever seen, because probably those two things are not where we're going to land. We're going to land somewhere in the middle. And so knowing like this is good and this is bad, and the elements of this that are good and bad, is probably a skill worth having.
The issue, because what he's right about entirely comes down to what he means when he says it's over for us. Like, who is us?
And that's one of the areas that he spends a lot of time talking about on this video. Like, when he says, who is us, what does that mean? And then he goes on to describe like his role and why he doesn't necessarily think it's over for him.
Look, I'm a cinematographer. I've been doing this for most of my adult life, and the idea that someone could eventually replace a significant chunk of what the film industry does by typing 2 sentences into a computer is not exactly comforting. So I want to be upfront that I'm not coming at this as some detached tech commentator. I'm in this industry for the long haul, and at 41 years old, I really don't want to find a new job. Now, I do have to say that...
So he and I are in the same age range. We're older. Now, I don't make money off of any of my films. Usually, I'm the one that's finding the funding for the films, and I usually don't pay myself. So I have a day job, right? Like I have to do my day job. By the way, AI is probably coming from my day job too. I was just listening to another AI take, and that he was in AI, and he said, I don't think we're going to have any more white collar jobs a year, 12 months from now. Now, obviously he's exaggerating. Obviously he's probably trying to promote his AI and say how great it is. But it doesn't mean that I feel good about that, and I'm not scared about it, because that's how I make a living, right? So both things, the filmmaking and I'm in marketing, are on the table as being like, maybe AI will take this from you, and it's scary, right?
As a documentary filmmaker, I feel slightly more secure than a lot of people right now, because docs are rooted in real events that actually happen. The doc industry is going through its own rough patch, but at the end of the day, you can't generate a real human being sitting across from you sharing something they've never told anyone before. I mean, you can, but I don't think anyone would watch it. But documentary is a tiny...
That gets to be dicey. Like, I don't think anyone would watch it. I tend to agree with that. I think where it starts to get weird, though, is that, you know, what if it's too difficult to get a film crew out to do an interview with somebody, right? And because of that difficulty, the film crew says, you know what, let's just do a Zoom meeting with this person. We'll capture their likeness, put it in an AI, and then have it actually film it. Like, in other words, you're literally taking the cinematographer out of the equation. Now, granted, right now the technology is not such that it could do that easily, but I'm already seeing companies come out that lets you place the camera in different places and utilize different models to create movies. So it's getting more sophisticated really, really quickly. People are creating AI agents to basically do jobs for them. And so while I think I agree with Luke on a lot of what he's going to say in this video, this is one area where I think I actually might disagree a little bit. And that is that the role of a documentary filmmaker may not be, now it may not be first on the chopping block, so to speak. I don't even like using that term. But I do start to question, like, okay, well, what are the areas where people will say, well, we'll just digitally recreate this person? Because, like, for example, if I'm doing a documentary on somebody that lives in France, and I can get their likeness from photos and from videos and from Zoom interviews that we're doing, and I can put that in an AI, and I can say, have him sitting in a chair or her sitting in a chair, have the camera pan around this way. That's where Luke's job would be in jeopardy, right? I think that the question is that we always have to ask ourselves is, are there use cases where AI would either be helpful or it would take over? Are there use cases where it would be horrific and where we, don't want it? And there's so many of them. So I hope he's right, because I don't want to see the role of DP or cinematographer be stripped out of productions. I don't want to see that at all. That's been one of my favorite roles to collaborate with. But him saying, I think we're good to go, I would say, I'm not sure, right? Like there's too much mystery in it for me to be that confident.
Corner of a much bigger industry, and what's happening there affects all of us just like it affects everyone who loves watching movies too. Because here's the thing, I've seen this before. Not exactly this scenario before, obviously, but this kind of panic. The moment.
Welcome to Featherstone University. Want straight A's?
So, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's scarier than not scary.
It's over for us.
And Hollywood is not happy about that.
Because I was there when it happened to the photojournalism industry, and then again when YouTube first started eating into the old school broadcast model. I know it's a bit outdated right now, but when YouTube first started taking off, the traditional media people hated it. And don't worry, this isn't me telling you to start a YouTube channel.
Way,
that's not what...
I should clarify, we're watching this video, I'm going to fast forward through it a little bit, and I'm offering commentary on it, but you should definitely go subscribe to Luke, watch his full video, come to your own conclusions about it as well. Don't just... I'm not trying to take views from Luke. I'm just literally trying to respond and have a conversation about this.
What's going on here? But what YouTube did was take the power to distribute video content away from a handful of massive corporations and hand it to anyone.
Now, this is the point he's making around how YouTube disrupted existing television or video production, right? All of a sudden, I mean, let's go back through the history of this. It used to be back in the day that if you were going to film a movie, you had to do so on film, right? Then we had little mini camcorders. And I grew up in an analog world and then became a digital world. So all of that analog stuff, all the film turned to digital. Everything got easier. The last film that we shot, Disclosure, we shot on an iPhone, and it looked phenomenal. So you can, the amount of technology change has been crazy to the point where some of my friends, you know, their entire YouTube channel is about what the latest, greatest cameras are. So he's not wrong in that the market has been disrupted multiple times in the past. That's 100% true. And what keeps happening is it keeps getting easier for more people to have access to make things. And he'll go on to say that that's not a bad thing. And I totally agree with him. I would not have been able to make the things that I have made if I was trying to make them even 30 years ago. Like it would have been very, very difficult. The quality certainly would have been lower, right? So over the course of time, technology is disrupting the filmmaking industry for sure. And there's multiple places where it's doing so. I think that AI is a little bit different though, because while it is disrupting, and we have seen people's roles in film either change. Like before, if you were editing film, you were literally cutting film and like splicing it together, right? Now you're going into whatever program you're doing and you're making all the edits there. So yes, technology has disrupted things. Technology has changed things. I think that... So I told you at the beginning of the video that I had like a theory about how AI could like win an Oscar. I'll go ahead and share that now because I think it's relevant to share it now. AI is so different because what it's doing is it's taking data that it has and it's recreating something from scratch. And I do think that Luke is 100% right in that AI is not going to produce its own things very often and have it be amazing. Someone is going to, a visionary person working on their computer and prompting AI is going to have to be involved for it to be exceptional. But I think there are some use cases where even that is not totally accurate. So let me give you a use case where I think an AI can probably, you know, within the next year, make a phenomenal film and maybe even a film that could win an Oscar. And I'm not suggesting anybody do this. I realize this is a controversial thing. I just think that it might be possible. Don't hear me saying that this is good and I want this to happen, because that is not true. It is not good. I don't want it to happen, but I think it might happen. And that is, if you fed AI a Shakespeare script, one of Shakespeare's plays, You gave it its script and you said, I want you to do Othello. I want you to do Othello, but I want you to do it in a science fiction style. I want it to be high budget, and I want the characters to be compelling. I want you to translate it into modern English. I think that given a complete data set, that there could be AIs that complete that entire film without much other things than the prompts that it was given to begin with, right? So I do think that while Luke is saying like, hey, look, you always need a visionary person behind the scenes, I think that there might be use cases where that is less true. And that is in what AI is already really good at, and that is digital replication. If I say I want to do Othello, I want to do Othello, but I want to do it in, 2100, and I want it to have a sci-fi overtones to it, and here are the different actors that I have paid for their likeness. Utilize that, make this story. That's scary to me because it doesn't take a visionary, because the visionary already lived and died. It was William Shakespeare. And the other visionaries that AI is pulling data from to create these sci-fi elements of it, and using the actor likenesses, those people have already handed that over to the AI. So I do think that there are use cases where the disruption is from ground zero. Like a Hollywood executive could go in and put those prompts in and get that result. And that result, because it's based on Shakespeare and because it's using high budget. Again, if a studio has access to their own IP and they have the ability to utilize it however they want to, what's to prevent them from adding that IP into the thing and prompting it that way? Now, again, I'm not in favor of any of this at all. I'm just saying I think that it's a possibility that could happen. So he's talking about how creators have been able to do more and more stuff. I've even admitted that's true of me too in terms of independent filmmaking. It would be very difficult to be an independent filmmaker in the 90s, like when I was a teenager, right? It would be very difficult. You'd have to like try and rent giant cameras, and I know they got away with camcorders at times and stuff like that too. But now you can get away with just amazing digital cameras for much less expensive. So yes, more content is able to be created, and having AI means that people who maybe don't have specific skill sets and don't have access to those skill sets, I know amazing DPs. That doesn't mean that every filmmaker, every writer, every director watching Luke's video or my video, it doesn't mean they have access to great DPs, right? Or cinematographers. But if I can see them saying like, okay, cool, well, I don't need a cinematographer anymore because I can prompt AI in such a way that I can create these really compelling visuals. Hey, what's up, OG? Thanks for coming in and watching. OG says, what's up, Jay? And then it's, for some reason, I can't see some of this. Let's see if I put it up here. Oh, I see. It's a different, for whatever reason, we stopped dreaming of what we could become. Essentially, we were too satisfied with our smartphones and TikTok and YouTube. What's the story we want to see? We don't know. Yeah. I mean, look, this is, there's multiple reasons that this is super scary. And OG brings up a really interesting point too. And that point is similar to Luke's point and similar to the point that I'm making, in that, yes, more people can make films, and that is a good thing. And we're all happy about that. Not related to AI, just related to the technology. Like there was no distribution. There's no means of distribution before YouTube came out, right? Right now, I have like a webcam in my room. I have lights in my room. I have a background that was not a thing that we had when I was growing up. We didn't have that ability. But OG brings up a decent point here, because part of the question of like people being able to create more content has meant that there's been even more content flooding it's been very noisy with content, right? There's lots and lots and lots of content. So then the question is like, how much of that content? So yes, there are people who have been discovered. In fact, I'm really impressed with some of the YouTubers who have made these awesome films lately. You had the two brothers that made the horror films. Markiplier came out with a film recently. I haven't seen that yet. I'm really impressed with some of what the YouTubers are putting out, and it's really, really good, and I'm excited about that. So we have found visionary people in a non-traditional way that have made really awesome, really awesome. Oh, I see what's happening. I can't see. I am actually attributing this to OG, but this is actually this name here. So thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. But yeah, this is a really good comment because at the same time, there have been a few visionaries that have risen to the top, but there's also been a lot of content that is like difficult to access, not good, right? Like there's a lot of bad content out there. So yes, it's easier to make these things, but it's also doesn't mean that making good stuff is any easier than it has ever been, right? Okay, so let me get back to what I was saying though. I think that yes, it is good for more people to have more opportunities. That is not a bad thing. What I do think is bad though is the question of how do we get eyes on the good stuff? How do we get people's attention on the good stuff? And we all like to say like, oh, well, it's a meritocracy. All the good stuff rises to the top. I will tell you, 40 plus years, 45 years into this thing that I call life, that is not true. The best stuff does not always rise to the top. And plus you've got lots of different opinions on what should rise to the top and what shouldn't rise to the top. So it's a very complex thing. But let's get back to Luke's video. So he made the point about like, hey, we've already seen this before. People have been able to make videos easier now in the modern day than they were before.
Dominated by YouTube creators who do it probably better and more authentically than the networks ever did. And as camera tech got cheaper and more accessible, gradually the production quality has been creeping up, and soon,
so
especially
he's just making the point that there's more people doing really cool stuff, which is what we just talked about. So let's get over to this part of the video here. Again, you should watch the whole video. Go give him a follow and make sure you check it out because he's got good
other
stuff
ways. And that's why I think this AI moment is actually a little different from earlier panics, and that's what Rhett Reese is picking up on too. Because if Seat Dance or whatever comes next can eventually close that production value gap, like if a small team or even one person alone can generate visuals that used to require an enormous budget, then the last thing protecting the old model disappears.
Yeah, there was another clip here of Superman fighting Darkseid, and that was easily a probably multi-million-dollar effects battle, and yet it was likely prompted by AI, and it was good. I mean, yeah, there parts of it that like didn't work as well as they could have. Sure, would it have been difficult to control all the camera angles and stuff, and AI just kind of did what it was going to do because of the prompt that it got? Yeah, probably. But that's another thing that's really interesting, and that's why he's saying this moment is different. And here's where I agree with him again. This moment is different because it's removing. It's not just removing, 90% of the humans who were going to make the thing. It's removing 100% of the humans. I mean, I guess there's one human that could prompt it, but again, what if we get into a world where AI is prompting AI to create things? Because I think one of the things that some people don't understand who are like really excited about AI, and by the way, AI will have some really cool uses in the world. I think AI will probably cure cancer at some point in time because it is amazing at managing large data sets. But imagine a world where Netflix says to its AI, scour all of the Netflix content, come up with a list of rules based on what works really well, and then prompt the other AI agents that we have working for us, again, non-humans, that I want a romantic comedy, I want a sci-fi adventure, and I want a superhero movie. Go make all of those things based on the data sets. Because AI is already prompting itself in multiple cases. And if you haven't seen those, they're very scary, right? I've even seen AI agents negotiating with one another, which is so crazy. Okay, so the scary part, which he's talking about, and I totally agree with him on, is that we're not necessarily talking about replacing... We are talking about replacing parts of people's jobs. We are saying that they might do their jobs differently. We're saying all of those things. But we're also saying that we could just replace people. And I think that's the thing. That's the part of the process where, let's just say, for example, that you're watching this video and you're like, hey, I have a really great idea for a movie. No one's ever done it before. And I really want to create it, but I don't have any contacts in Hollywood. I have no clue how to make movies. But I've studied, maybe you've even studied making movies for a really long period of time, but you haven't actually done any of it, right? I don't think any of us are saying like you shouldn't be allowed to make movies with AI. What we are saying, though, is what we would prefer. I think this is what I'm saying. I won't put any words in anybody else's mouth. What I would prefer is that like we use AI movies to pitch to studios to then make real movies. I don't, and that, but see, here's the problem. I don't think that a lot of the economics behind how to make movies are, I don't think they're geared towards that, because the question is always going to be, by the way, making money at movies is incredibly difficult. I know it seems like it's probably easy, but do box office reports for all of the movies that come out in a year and then see how many of them are actually profitable. A movie that's released in theaters has to make like 2.5 times to 3 times its production budget. Because there's marketing costs involved, you're splitting revenue with theaters. You have to make so much money when you release a movie to just break even, hardly, right? So to be profitable is very difficult. And guess what happens if you're not profitable? If you start losing money on the movies that you come out with, well, you go out of business is what happens. So this is a very complex thing, because you can see some of the studios saying, well, we really want to save money. So here's where it gets to be weird. If a studio executive can say, I would like to see a superhero movie, and a studio executive can prompt an AI to go then prompt an AI DP and prompt an AI director and prompt an AI, special effects coordinator, and say, I need you guys to work all together to prompt each other to make this movie that looks like this width and breadth of superhero movies, the ones we like and versus the ones we don't like, right? Just use these ones. That's a scary world to live in my opinion. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of other use cases you can bring out here. We could talk about use cases I could do a whole video about hundreds of use cases. I want to watch Man of Steel, but I want to see Christopher Reeve in it as opposed to Henry Cavill. Well, AI will do that for you. Should it be allowed to do that for you? You can answer that question. That's a rough question for me to answer, because I'm like, man, is it dangerous? Is it bad? First of all, I don't know that Christopher Reeve can sign off on it. So can his estate sign off on it? The number of potholes that we can all get ourselves into is just insane. Now, some of the question too with use cases is like, will they even be able to do that? Will it even be able to create its own AI agents and create an AI director and create an AI cinematographer and all do this kind of stuff? Right now, we don't know. We don't have a good answer to that question. But let's keep watching Luke's video.
Disappears. When that quality moat dries up, then it really is a whole new game. So when Rhett Reese says it's over for us, I do agree. But again, the key word is us and defining what that means. Because it seems like very soon, like definitely within the decade, but if not much, much sooner, AI is going to finally close that production gap. The reason a Netflix show looks so different from a YouTube video is basically money and scale. And
yeah, money and scale, but also I think that there's a lot of people who have studied something for a very long period of time. So money, skill, and probably experience and skill, I'm sure go hand in hand. But a lot of times I think that if you haven't made a movie before, and I've heard this a bunch online, it's kind of like, why do so many Hollywood movies suck? And the answer to that is not usually because they hired people who don't know what they're doing. That could be the case, right? That's certainly the case sometimes. But a lot of times it's because making movies is very difficult. Try and do any project, right? Projects themselves are difficult. You have budgetary constraints. You have to go through the process of looking through all of these things in different ways. You have to work with a group of people. That's difficult too. So it gets very difficult over time to to do things well, right? It's not just Hollywood that's like that. My wife and I comment all the time how we go to restaurants and the food's not as good as it used to be. I'm going to pause really quick to check out OG's comments here. OG says, we live in an attention economy, so much competition out there and tons of platforms. I agree, it's really hard to get seen even if making great content. Yeah, so I said that earlier in the video, like, you could be making the best content out there and it's very difficult to get eyes on it. It just is. In fact, there are some short films that I've seen that are like phenomenal short films. I'm like, wow, how does this short film not have like a bajillion views? Well, based on the audience and based on what the audience is looking for, instead they're all choosing to watch the fight scenes from either other films or, you know, so there's some short films that all they are extended fight scenes. They're not really stories. It's just two characters who want to fight each other. Those become very popular on YouTube, for example. Now, why? I don't know, right? I don't know why they become so popular, but it is true. That's just the case. Now, there's an argument to be made there about, well, isn't good subjective? And to a certain extent, good is subjective. So some people are going to say that fight scene was really good, whereas I'm going to say I preferred the slow burn of the mystery movie that I watched or whatever. So there's that too. But OG's 100% right. Like, the attention economy is wild. And we've actually seen the attention economy be hacked as well, right? Which is also a scary thing. OG also says, if AI existed in the 70s, Hanna-Barbera would create shows fully with AI. Cheap cartoon factory, basically. Those are the kinds of studios that will go full bore into this stuff. 100%, OG. 100%. So when someone says something, oh, I remember who it was that said it, because I was talking to OG. It made me think of it. It was Michael Eisner that said it. Michael Eisner was the one that said that he didn't think AI would make an Oscar quality film. But again, most of the people with jobs in filmmaking are not working on Oscar-nominated films. And at what point in time can somebody say, hey, there's this copyright ran out on this thing. It's a decent story. What if we did this as a cartoon and we just put it through AI? Okay, what if we agree to pay some of the actors that are famous right now and we'll put their faces on this old thing and make it a new thing? You know, I was watching The Third Man the other day, and I actually did a scene breakdown on it on this channel on one of my live shows, so you can watch that. The Third Man is amazing. Orson Welles is in it, and he's awesome. So I highly recommend The Third Man. But what if you just said, I want to do a new Third Man, and we're going to pay for Tom Cruise to be in it. We're going to pay for Brad Pitt to be in it. By the way, we do need to have AI create a fight scene because it is slow, because it was made, you know, wherever it was made, 1940s probably. And you could do that today. You could do it. I mean, like, it might not be awesome, but you could do it. And so we're just replacing we could replace the entire industry, which is why I think we have to be careful about this stuff. All right, let's get back to Luke's video. I love the comments. Thank you for leaving the comments, OG. I really appreciate that.
Watch it. And I'm being honest, there's a part of this that I find genuinely exciting, because think about what used to stop people from making epic movies. It wasn't talent, because there were incredibly talented people everywhere in the world who never got to shoot on those big productions. No, it was money and access. Even to make a...
Yeah, and on this point, he's 100% accurate, which I mentioned earlier. It's going to allow more people to be able to tell stories they're passionate about, and that is a good thing. And it's going to reduce budgets of things. He talks about, like, low budget films are still hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's true. They are. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's insane. So there's pluses and minuses to all this stuff. And this is why we can't have a conversation that is black and white. It has to be a conversation that has gray in it. And it's uncomfortable. The conversation is uncomfortable. I didn't want to make this video today because I don't want to have opinions on it, right? But I thought Luke's video was so good that I felt like it was prompting me to be like, you know what? I think we need to have this conversation.
A relatively small indie film, you still need a lot of money and people, way more than the average person has access to. And if you want anyone to see it, you'd also need a distributor, and that probably meant when tech optimists look at Seed Dance and think anyone can just click a button and make a movie now. And on the other extreme are the film purists who won't engage with AI at all and feel like anything that uses it has no artistic value. And I think they're both wrong, or at least half wrong, and somewhere in the middle of the...
I agree with him on that too. We talked about that earlier. That's what I mean by it's not black and white. There's shades of gray in this thing that we need to consider.
the best parts of both worlds, like not a binary shift. Like you'll shoot real performances with real people and then use AI to extend what you can do in post. Or
Now, this is what I would love to see in AI, right? I would love to see it to be where I could go in and I can shoot a movie for, let's say, $100,000, which would be like a super low budget movie. $100,000 movie is like insane. And then we could utilize AI to add special effects and again, I'm not trying to take the special effects people's jobs. I'm not trying to do that. But the point he's making is that it's so expensive. Now, I did see someone comment on his video who said, one caveat to this is that AI is actually far more expensive than you think it is. And the energy to run AI is going to be really expensive in the future, which is going to mean utilizing the AI is going to be really expensive. That's a really good point that I think we need to think about too, because that might revolutionize the way that we look at things in the near future. And I don't know how we're going to pay for all this stuff, because if it's going to take all the white collar jobs, where are we going to go with this? So I'm going to let you guys watch the rest of Luke's video. I don't want to cover his whole thing. I want to get more attention to his channel and more people watching what he's up to. So I'll stop there in terms of the video. But my personal take is that my hope, a couple things. I think the reason why we're not putting more regulations on top of AI right now is because we're in a race with other countries to see whose AI sort of wins the day. And that has, worldwide implications. Like if suddenly Russia or China's AI won the day, do we think that if AI's Russia would win the day, that they would like stop taking places over? Probably not. So that's a whole other conversation that I'm not qualified to handle. But my point is that I think the reason why we're not putting any regulation on AI or being very cautious about it at all is because we're worried about someone else's AI taking over our AI and that being a political problem. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the filmmaking aspects of things in this video. And that's where I think that that we need to start having the conversation around AI is here to stay. In fact, SAG-AFTRA, I can't remember I know Sean Astin's the new president, and Fran Drescher was the former president. I don't remember the guy who negotiates on behalf of SAG-AFTRA's name. But he'll be the first one to say, like, we're not against AI, we're against how AI is utilized. And I think he's right about that. Like, I wish that we did not have to consider AI. I wish that we could still continue to make movies the way we were making them. It was just, I wish that more people had the ability to do it. I wish it was cheaper. I wish that more people could do cool special effects. I will tell you, as a writer, I don't use it at all in my writing. And the reason I don't use it all in my writing is because the creative process is very important to me. If I don't wrestle through something and I'm suddenly typing something into AI to have it give me answers and have it write dialogue or something for me, to me, that's like taking away the thing that I find a lot of joy and a lot of what word do I want to use? I get a lot out of that process. So why would I hand it over to a robot, right? Or an artificial intelligence? I want to be that intelligence and I want to break it down. And you could say, okay, well, yeah, but if the AI has read Shakespeare and the AI has read Tarantino, how are you going to compare to the AI? Well, fine, maybe I don't compare to the AI, but it's still my creative process. And as a human being, that's really important to me. It's not just important because I get to make a movie. It's also important because it changes who I am. And so I'm not for most of the use cases that people are talking about AI taking over. I'm against it for the most part. I wish it was better regulated so that it didn't take over 100% of white collar jobs in the next 12 months. I think that's ludicrous. Why would we want that? Because why? So that giant corporations could just keep earning more money and that we don't have to work? I mean, working is something that we get something out of, I think. I think we get something out of working. I think we're supposed to work. So yeah, I think so let me just say this. I know I'm not coming to very many conclusions. I will tell you this. I don't use it myself for my writing because I don't want my creative process to be hijacked by something else. I do think that there are probably use cases in films reducing the price of special effects. I like people working with each other and collaborating. I highly recommend, if you've never made a film before, but you're interested in it, go make one. It is such a fun collaborative process. I've had the most rewarding experiences working with other people, working with actors and DPs and all these other people. It is so rewarding to do that with other people. I don't want AI to take over their jobs, right? I want AI to make it easier to get things made and to get things done and to do them cheaper, but I don't want to take any humans out of the process, because that's what makes the filmmaking so cool. So I could probably ramble on and on about this for a lot longer, but I'm going to stop there. Go subscribe to Luke. Give him a shout out. If you head over there, tell him I sent you. And in the meantime, leave me any comments down below of what your opinions are about this coming flood of AI. I have friends who think about this in very different ways. I've got friends who are like on the never. I've got friends who are on the I'm really excited about it. I've got friends that have all different kinds of opinions. I tend to be on the more cautious end of things, not the let's go disrupt Hollywood until it's gone. I think that's kind of a crazy thing to say. And again, I would be really depressed if if there aren't people making movies together as a creative process. That to me is cool. Let me know what you think down below. It's a crazy thing. I'm sure I'll have a different opinion about it next year as we learn more about what it's capable of and what it can do. And hopefully I'll still have a YouTube channel by then, and it hasn't taken us into nuclear annihilation or something. All right. I'll see you guys later. That was way too long of a live show. Thanks for joining in. Leave me your comments down below. And I'm going to get back into my scene breakdowns next. So stay tuned for those as well. Bye.